to, get Ring of Honor in front of for their standards going into my ownership. And, this is very consistent with the kind of crowds we've had for the Ring of Honor pay-per-views. A couple thousand people is a good Ring of Honor crowd. And that's, there, before I took over, you could count in 21 years how many times Ring of Honor had a couple thousand people in the building. So I'm pretty happy with it. And also AEW this year, the attendance is up year over year for Q4. So I think, Adam and John have done a great job, I think. And frankly, I will say, I shook the tree a little bit when they came in to say, you guys need to get into the markets with the wrestlers. And they've done fantastic and responded really well. And I think whether you look at Houston, Philadelphia, Chicago, and a bunch of the cities we've done in the last several months, the walk-ups have been outstanding. And actually, we've done and there was another one I'm forgetting too, but we did 4 of the top 7 walk-ups. And Grand Slam was huge. Grand Slam was the number one, and Grand Slam, and then Grand Slam, Houston, Philly, Chicago were 4 of the top 7 or 8 walk-ups in the history of the company for TV. And then the pay-per-view walk-ups also outstanding. The LA was the biggest LA pay-per-view was the biggest walk-up in the history of the company. So we've actually been having these last few months really, really good success. These guys have really done a great job. The PR team and Mandy and Danny and everybody done a great job along with John and Adam. And I think them working with the live events team, they've stepped up. So we've seen a good boost. So year over year, Q4, we're up, which is great. And so I want to keep growing. I don't know if you saw the study. From questions I had asked, and it came out favorably. And there's a reason I asked, because my gut said it was true, and it was. The numbers we're doing for our tickets are not only comparable to what WCW was doing in the mid 90s, but in many cases better. Our numbers are better per show than WCW in 94, and I think right on 96 and 95, right there. And I think we're ahead of one year and right behind the other, right kind of there. WrestleTix estimates, and I'm not sure, the WrestleTix, that's their estimate. Usually looks like it's pretty close. There's times where I think it's a couple hundred, if it's several thousand tickets, they might be off by a couple hundred, which is a lot on one hand, but on the other hand, it's sometimes it's 5 to 10% of the whole thing. So they are usually within a pretty good margin of error by the way he counts them. And when they did that study with WCW, I think that's a good comparison. And to be a challenger brand, there hasn't been a company like AEW that had this big of a market share since the 90s. It's really cool. And like I said, I think the juggernaut is, in many ways that we're up against, is bigger than ever and more imposing than ever. And in a digital era, when you're facing that kind of juggernaut, it's constant pressure. And I think this year we've delivered with more great shows than ever before. And it's a great time to be AEW. And so I'm really excited about what we're doing. I think certainly when you talk about tickets, some of our most exciting momentum we've ever had, the Greensboro, we talked about it on the show tonight, but today was the first day of tickets for Revolution, and we're over 11,000 tickets sold for a show on the first day. So that's our biggest for any non-first time event. I think that's going to be up there with the first Double or Nothing, the first Grand Slam.
I can't take anymore. Honestly, Conrad, my fucking head's going to explode. I've never heard so much meaningless bullshit in a press conference in my entire life. This is not a press conference. This is, let me get up and talk about how great I am and how great this company is and try to blow smoke up everybody's ass. And hey, the hardcore AEW Twitter X fan base is going to suck it up. And they're going to be repeating it word for word. The problem is there's nothing but air in all of those comments. It's nonsense. Trying to compare Dynamite or AEW ticket sales to WCW in 96, are you freaking high? Every week we do this show, we're covering 96, 97, 98. We're putting 18,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 people for a TV show. Dynamite is lucky they're scaling 10,000 seat arenas for 5,000 people and praying to God there's a walk up. Otherwise, they're not going to sell out. How can you make those statements and expect anybody to think you have any credibility whatsoever? Are you looking at one or two isolated situations and extrapolating a scenario or a picture or projection based on that? It's misleading as hell. It's untrue. It's dishonest. and you know what? It's delusional. And I think Tony's deluding himself, and hopefully, and hoping, I should say, that he's able to delude other people along with him into believing in this thing that's nothing more than a very, very, very expensive vanity project.
Well, I knew you'd get it hot about the comparison.
Not hot. It's just frustrating. What a great opportunity Tony has. Notice I didn't say had. Has. What a great opportunity he has. But if you can't be real, if you can't be honest with yourself and look at the things that are not working and address them, then you're deluding yourself. And he'll be able to keep on doing it because, well, he's got his dad's money and he's not accountable, and he can keep doing it as long as he wants to do it. Good for Tony Khan, but not so good for the business. If this doesn't work, if WBD makes that move to WWE, which could happen, we don't know if it will, maybe not. If it doesn't happen and AEW stays on WBD, then forget all this hyperbole, Tony. Look at reality and fix the shit that needs to be fixed. And until you do that, you're just going to be the brunt of a joke. Your punchline.
Well, I would disagree with that. But I do know that it's no joke that Charlotte Flair is on the sidelines. WWE put a tweet out over the weekend that said that she's expected to miss like 9 months.
Ooh.
We saw a pretty scary clip from social last weekend where she was grasping her knee, saying, my knee, and lots of different conflicting reports out there. And it's not my place to necessarily share anything and everything here, but the report is 9 months. Man.
Wow. That's 9 months is a lifetime in the industry, right? So much can happen and so much can change over the course of 9 months. It's scary.
It's crazy to think, though, when WWE is just getting at their hottest, it feels like some of our top guys are moving around. And now we know that, unfortunately, Charlotte's going to miss WrestleMania. But back in time for WrestleMania, CM Punk, Randy Orton, and now AJ Styles. AJ Styles came back at the end of SmackDown.
Was that awesome or what?
On the Randy Orton diet, looking like an action figure. This is the biggest, most jacked AJ Styles has ever been. He comes in to make the save in the middle of this big feud and brawl with the Bloodline, who had clearly outnumbered Randy Orton and LA Knight, who ran in to be helpful to Randy Orton. So AJ Styles makes his return, levels the playing field in that fight, and then immediately attacks LA Knight. So it looks like we're going to be getting some LA Knight versus AJ Styles. Man, this WWE roster, you kind of forget how many headliners they had who weren't on TV, like Randy Orton and now like AJ Styles. What do you expect? This is an exciting time for AJ and WWE, no?
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, I watched that match, and the finish of it was so good. That match, you talk about Sarsa, story, backstory, anticipation, reality, surprise, action. Now, this is not complete yet, right? But there were a lot of boxes checked. We know there's story. There's inherent story right there. But the drama, people talk about the story in the ring or the story in the match. I want to beat you. You want to beat me. Okay, we got the story. But when you look at the drama that played out as a part of the story, the facial expressions, the timing in that finish was so perfect. I saw one hiccup, one minor hiccup that took me out of the game, took me out of the moment, I should say, for a fraction of a second. And that was when, who was it? It was Roman Reigns and maybe Randy were exchanging blows in the center of the ring. And they were back and forth, boom, 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 boom. And then there was a little hiccup right in the middle. I don't know who was off, whether it was Randy or Roman. One of them just was a little bit off, and it kind of, it was like that microphone in the frame drop kind of moment for me. It's like when you go to a movie and you're all into the scene, and all of a sudden you see a boom camera come or boom mic come down in the camera frame. You just go, what the hell is that there for? That's what I mean by a boom mic moment. But that little hiccup was the only thing that I saw. Everything else was as flawless, I think, as flawless could be. Now, I watched that match specifically because I wanted to see Randy. I'm a huge Randy Orton fan. Make that, if nobody's aware of that yet, you're aware now. Huge Randy Orton fan. But when AJ came completely out of nowhere, the value of real surprise, right? The value of surprise. If they would have announced, AJ is going to be in the main event, if there would have been some other form of tease or a backstage segment or something like that, that would have tipped the hat in a way that would have diminished that moment. AJ Styles got a hero's return reaction in the middle of what was already a pretty amazing main event and story. I think it's going to be fantastic. Look for Randy and AJ to end up teaming up somewhere down the road. I think that's going to be a fantastic combination. They complement each other very, very well. I loved every second of it.